Hello, I'm Jeff Smith from AM Global, and today I will be introducing to you an instructional video to help guide you through the new public release of the DM Smart application from AudioControl. This is not a beta. This is the real deal. I can tell you that a lot of time and effort has gone into making these highly anticipated changes to increase stability, enhance performance, and provide solid reliability from the DM Smart application. One of the most important changes comes in the way that the application has been improved to operate faster and smoother without taxing the available resources from your computer's CPU. In addition to all these great improvements, a lot of new features have been added for those more skilled DSP users to be able to dial in a high-performance audio system even further than before. Let's dive right in. If you currently have an older version of the DM Smart application downloaded onto your computer, we strongly suggest that you remove the previous version of the software and then download and perform a clean installation of the latest version. This will ensure that you're only using the brand new software, and when you go to connect your device, it will be automatically prompted for an update. This new firmware can be found on the AudioControl website. There are two product categories where you can find these downloads. One of them being the digital signal processors, the DM810 and DM608. The other being the power amplifier section, or the D-series amplifiers. Once you're on the product page, you will need to scroll to the bottom, and here is where you will find the appropriate software for your computer's operating system. Double-click the icon to start the downloading process. Now, let's see this process in action. I'm going to demonstrate using the DM810 that is currently loaded with the older release 1369 of the DM Smart application. The updating process. Now we're going to connect to our DM810. I'm going to double click the DM Smart icon. Wait for connection to be established. Enter in the password. The default password is 1234. Once a connection has been established, you will see that the green indication LED in the upper right hand corner indicates that the unit is connected. Going into the Help tab, we can click the About and see that we are on version 1369. Now that we've downloaded a new version of the firmware, I'm going to simply go into my file folder, go to Downloads, and find the latest downloads. Version 2.03. I'm going to double click the application and execute the installation. You want to click More Info and Run Anyway. Of course, Windows is going to try to protect your computer in case there are any viruses. You definitely want to create a new desktop shortcut and click Installation. Because we currently have the DM Smart app open, we want to make sure that we close it. Now that the installation is complete, we want to launch the new software. New drivers will be installed in order for the application to communicate properly to your DSP device. Extract these new drivers, click Next, accept the agreement, next, finish. See that these drivers were successfully installed. Now we want to connect to the hardware and restart the app and set up the software. As you can see, the background has changed a bit to now a more solid background that's no longer opaque. The password is the same, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll click OK. Now we're being prompted that there is new firmware ready to be loaded for our processor, and yes, we would like to continue. This is a safety warning to let us know that all the parameters previously in our DM810 will be saved in an external file, so any previous tuning that you've done will not be lost. These files will now be saved into a location. Pay attention to where that exact location goes. This particular unit, DM810, today's date also. I always like to add a marker at the end in case I'm not the only person tuning this DSP. I'll add a JS at the end. And I'll click Save. When the update is complete, the new firmware will now reload this last saved information that was in the DSP so that none of my previous tuning will be lost. Now the update process will begin. Now, our firmware has been successfully updated. Now, the previous file that we had before the update started has been reloaded to our system. Now the previous file that was on our DSP will be reloaded to the system. No data will be lost. And as you can see, everything that was previously loaded is now loaded back with the newest version of the software. Verification of this can be seen by going to the Help tab, clicking About, and you can see that we are on version 2.03. Now, let's go over some of the new features in the software. Starting with Input View. I've gone in and reset the DM810 to resemble a brand new installation. This is performed in the Tools tab. The first thing that you'll notice is that all the default labels for each of the input channels have been adjusted for a more logical understanding of channel assignment or signal summing during the initial setup process. Remember that these labels are for all inputs, no matter if you're using low-level RCA, high-level inputs from an OEM system, or the digital inputs. So, name them correctly so that your system routing makes the most sense. The other thing that you'll notice on the input screen is that input signal delay, which was rarely used or even implemented properly, was removed to free up a lot of DSP resources and to make room for the more useful and desirable improvements which we've made. The input gain slider allows a range of gain adjustment in the analog domain before the analog to digital converter. This allows the DM810, 608, and all the D-series amplifiers to have an unmatched compatibility to maximize the headroom as well as reduce the noise in the system. This is similar to having a gain pot on the actual device, but you can do it much easier through the DM Smart application. The milk light, or maximum input level control, easily known as a clip light indicator, will illuminate when the DSP's input stage is being overdriven. Remember, the high-level inputs can take up to 40 volts of input and the RCAs can take up to 8 volts of input. But that still doesn't mean you can't overdrive or send in a clipped input signal. The input RTA is a very useful tool. This is where you will have insight to look at the incoming signals from your source unit. The input RTA will also have the ability to show you some channels of stereo pairs. If you have two channels that are out of phase, you'll have very little information shown on the screen. Looking at pairs of channels also gives you the ability to see comb filtering and all-pass filters if you have two channels that are either misaligned or there's an OEM all-pass filter present. We'll make another video about that in the future for more advanced users. The sensitivity control mimics the original AudioControl 3055 real-time analyzer. This allows you to adjust the sensitivity of the scale in which you look at the incoming signal. There's also a speed control that can allow you to look at the resolution a little bit faster and easier depending upon how you want to look at your input signal. Output view. Switching from input view to output view is extremely easy. Typically, you could click on the output view tab and it would move you over. But you can also click on any of the input channels or any of the output channels and move yourself back and forth accordingly. Don't forget, the preset labels for output channels and input channels can be easily changed by double-clicking directly on a label. The output view is where you're going to spend the majority of your time. Signal summing was previously named output summing. By renaming it, it makes the functionality of this section a lot easier to understand. If you're doing a high-level system in which you need to sum a mid-range, a tweeter, or a mid-bass together, you would simply illuminate each channel that needs to be summed to an output channel. Output level adjustment for each channel can be made in stereo pairs or by going down to the EQ RTA section and selecting a single channel. Now you can actually have independent gain control per channel. Level 1 would be for channel 1, level 2 would be for channel 2. Independent gain and independent muting per channel. Switching from input view to output view is extremely easy. Typically, you could click on the output view tab and it would move you over. But you can also click on any of the input channels or any of the output channels and move yourself back and forth accordingly. Don't forget, the preset labels for output channels and input channels can be easily changed by double-clicking directly on a label. The output view is where you're going to spend the majority of your time. Signal summing was previously named output summing. By renaming it, it makes the functionality of this section a lot easier to understand. If you're doing a high-level system in which you need to sum a mid-range, a tweeter, or a mid-bass together, you would simply illuminate each channel that needs to be summed to an output channel. Output level adjustment for each channel can be made in stereo pairs or by going down to the EQ RTA section and selecting a single channel. Now you can actually have independent gain control per channel. Level 1 would be for channel 1, level 2 would be for channel 2. Independent gain and independent muting per channel. In the crossover tab, the available slopes have been upgraded from only having 12 or 24 dB Linkwitz-Riley, high pass, low pass, or bandpass available to now having 12 dB, 18 dB Butterworth, and 24 dB Linkwitz-Riley. Remember, Butterworth is only a selection for the 18 dB per octave crossover for high pass or low pass. Along with this improvement, we've also added better identification of each crossover section for high pass and low pass. We've also implemented safety net crossovers for each one of the output channels. These are safe values to use during the initial setup process for most systems. These values can be changed at any time to the recommended crossover values suggested by a speaker manufacturer. The crossovers now can be defeated or set to bypass by adjusting the lowest or highest point of the crossover slider. Previously, the slider stopped at 20 Hz on the low pass and 20,000 kHz on the high pass, and full crossover bypass wasn't previously possible. In the Delay tab, phase and polarity can now be adjusted or flipped individually on each output channel, rather than the previous way of only being able to adjust speaker polarity in pairs. You'll also notice that the delay value starts at 0 inches. The DM Smart application will automatically calculate for proper speaker delay if you enter the distance in inches from the reference listening point to each active amplified speaker channel in the vehicle. This saves so much time and confusion with the built-in calculator. Don't worry, for the Pro or Advanced users, you do have the ability to go into the Tools menu and switch from a measurement auto calculating option to milliseconds. This will allow you to go in and do all the math yourself, or to use an external advanced tuning device to give you the exact measurements for time delay. The AccuBase tab stays the same until you click on the Tools menu and enable the All-Pass filter settings. All-Pass filter adjustment is something that we suggest for those expert tuners who really know how to properly apply these filters. This is why it's hidden. But for those who have measured the audio system and know how to properly apply these filters, you now have 2 all-pass filters to use per channel. They can be set for first order or second order for every DSP output channel. These also include the non-amplified RCA output channels on the D-series amplifiers. Moving down to the output EQ. The output EQ area has been revised as well, so that instead of having the option between a 10-band, 14-band, and 30-band graphic EQ, you now have a 10-band parametric EQ along with a 30-band graphic EQ to choose from for your tuning needs. We've also realigned the sliders and the EQ buttons to be directly over the frequencies to make understanding this a lot easier. Within the graphic EQ, you also now have a new feature. This is independent channel mute, or pairs of channel muting. 10-band parametric equalization has been added for those users who prefer parametric equalization. 10 bands are available per channel. You can switch between having a pair of channels controlled by all 10 bands, or switch to individual channel mode where you'll have 10 bands for channel 1 and then an additional 10 bands for channel 2. Parametric equalization is extremely easy to use and extremely functional, seeing as how you can move multiple frequencies at one time instead of every individual frequency. If you need to adjust a particular frequency, other than grabbing the actual EQ button and moving it around until you find the exact frequency that you want, you can simply double click on the gray box at the bottom and type in specifically the exact frequency that you want and go directly to it. Once here, you have the ability to boost or cut that frequency and also adjust the Q of that frequency. The Q dictates how many frequencies will be adjusted at one time. The lower the number means the wider the Q, which means more frequencies will be affected. The higher the number means the tighter the Q, which means the less frequencies will be affected, and it will be more around that center frequency that you've chosen. You also have the ability to flatten out any equalization that you've done and completely start over. Or if you want to temporarily hear the differences for what you've done, simply press the bypass button and it will defeat your EQ without erasing it. Deselect it and you can go right back to what you've also listened to. Within the RTA Memories pull-down menu, you will notice that the AudioControl house curve has been removed. This is because any house curve needs to be an acoustical response. Both of the RTAs found within the DM Smart application are electrical. The input view shows the electrical response of the incoming signal, and the output view shows the electrical response of the output EQ. Dashboard view. The dashboard view screen is an easy way for you to conveniently see any of the settings that you've made, all on one screen, from the input view to your output settings, output RTA, and an easy way to access the EQ all at once. Extended control. Just when you thought it couldn't get any better. Of course, we try to listen to all of our dealers and all of our consumers who love our products. Within the new V2 software, we have increased the reliability of the AC-BT24 Bluetooth unit immensely. If you've had problems with this in the past, we highly recommend you try it now with the new software. It is going to be super reliable and super fast Bluetooth connectivity, audio streaming, and tuning ability from your devices. Additional control has also been made for customers who use Android tablets to use a USB-C to micro USB connection and be able to tune and stream directly from your Android tablet directly to your DSP or DSP amplifier without the use of a laptop. Wow, what else could you ask for? How about one more thing? Ever been tuning an AudioControl DSP and automatically the car shuts off because it's a push to start and times out after 15 to 20 minutes? Or potentially even unplug the USB mistakenly while tuning the vehicle? I know I have. Now there's a new safety feature that will allow you to basically retain all of those changes in the case of an accident. The new V2 software has the ability to store all of your settings in a temporary file and give you enough time to get back to the vehicle or to the DSP and reconnect that USB connection before any of your tuning is lost. Simply reconnect that USB or power that vehicle back up, click the OK button, and all of your application information will still be stored in that unit. Well, I hope that wasn't too long or too boring, and that you are as excited as I am about the new features and amazing improvements that we've made to the AudioControl DM Smart DSP application. Thanks for viewing. Now let's go make good sound great.